Hello everyone, today is article day and we are going to read together The Metaverse Emerges, which is all about a possible proposed theory as to how the metaverse will actually emerge and what it will look like. So let's go ahead and dive in. The Metaverse Emerges. As the NFT mania grows in energy, so has the conversation around the metaverse. We all talk about the metaverse, but no one has meaningfully attempted to actually define it. This article offers an actionable proposition about what the metaverse actually is. The metaverse will be an orchestration of many different layers and technologies, but it will ultimately collapse upon a single shared source of truth that all components of the metaverse will abide by. The metaverse will be made up of objects, and all those objects must know that all the other objects exist. From this foundation, we can create a ledger of all objects in the known metaverse, as well as their shared history of interactions and stories. Understanding the metaverse requires stripping it into its component parts and then recomposing it into a single narrative of what it is. Let's dive in. But first, article Legos. Like the money Legos of Ethereum, my previous articles stack upon each other and are important to read in order to carry the stream of consciousness onto the next article. This piece is built upon 3 others that I've written. While this article can be read on its own, further investigation can be complemented by reading these preceding articles. A bankless nation. Crypto economic systems, like Ethereum, are the next evolution in mass human coordination. From hunter-gatherers to religions to nation-states to digital protocols, humans have found increasingly better technologies to operate at larger scales of group coordination. Ethereum hosts a digital nation in the cloud, which operates on bottom-up incentives rather than top-down coercion. Digital leviathans. Continuing from the bankless nation, the Ethereum protocol is an extension of Thomas Hobbes' Leviathan, but instead of an absolute monarchy or executive leadership, control over the Leviathan is shattered and shared amongst the people that compose the body of the Leviathan. This gives new energy to the idea of a nation by the people, for the people. And lastly, the digital culture revolution. The crypto revolution is a revolution in money and technology, but the legacy of crypto will instead be a renaissance in human culture. Ethereum facilitates the creation of infinite different digital cultures as these cultures finally have an economic foundation to stand on. This renaissance will unfold by more closely aligning the market value of our assets with our human values. Building the metaverse bottom up. The metaverse is a new organizing body for the digital age. But we've seen this before. Before we define the metaverse, we need to define the iterations that have come before it. Seeing like a nation state. I've recently read the book Seeing Like a State, which illustrates what it's like to take the perspective of a nation state. A nation state is a unified body of incentives and desires, and using people inside of it to achieve those desires. The nation state is one single central of registry of everything inside its domain that is worth registering. Nation states like order and thus employ systems of order to account for all the things of which it has power over. We have many ordering phenomena that define our lives by the desires of a nation state. So social security numbers, your physical address, telephone numbers, your business EIN number. The serialization of the people and entities inside of a nation state helps a state become aware of what composes it. Once a nation state accounts for everything it controls, it can also begin to tax everything. It goes much further than just serializing people and their businesses. According to Seeing Like a State, the current orderly nation-state structure we have is built upon previous attempts to account for the value of the land that tax collectors manage. Traditionally, land would be evaluated and measured upon its ability to produce yield on its crops. And nation-states would employ surveyors to properly assess the value of the land based on the value of the crops and the land could yield. Good, fertile land would be taxed more than arid land because the essential accounting body wants its fair share. Early systems of agricultural accounting would go so far to map out the land and the types of crops that grew on it. Aspen trees planted every 6 feet with 6 feet wide rows would be used for lumber farming and would be taxed according to the state by tax code number. Potatoes would be planted every 6 inches, meaning that 1 acre could host exactly 120,000 potatoes and would net the state exactly 50,000 in taxes on an annual basis. The nation state would go through strenuous effort to ensure it was accounting for all the value that it had dominion over, as knowing this would lead to higher tax revenue for the state. This is how wild, diverse forests would be turned into homogeneous crops of one specific type of tree. Forest turns into grids of trees suitable for farming for lumber. Wild plains would be turned into orderly pastures with only one type of crop. Chaotic, unsettled lands would be turned into grids of streets, all with numbers. Nation-states need things ordered and numbered and accounted for in order to optimize their ability to coordinate resources. The central registry of a nation-state needs to be aware of all the valuable resources inside of what it has control over so it can properly extract taxes and grow the state. Insight. The crypto industry has recently bumped up against the nation-state desire to label and subsequently tax everything. The tax collecting ability of the U.S. Treasury has been hampered by its lack of oversight of property and ownership inside of an economic system that it doesn't control. This is why they don't like crypto. The nation-state desire to count for everything is good for the health of the system as defined, but it comes at the cost of individual freedom. The nation-state reduces all humans and their property down to serialized numbers for tax collection purposes, and that is inhumane and restrictive of individual freedoms, which is why there's always pushback against government overreach. That's because if the nation-state gets its way, the long-term conclusion of nation-states' desires might look something like this. And this is a scene from Neo, which is an allusion to how all the autonomous robots were just farming humans for their electricity. The nation-state is built upon a central intelligence about the state of itself, as well as the world around it. It is looking to know the world around it and extract its resources. This concept explains the frequent oppression of indigenous cultures by nation-states. Nomads are difficult to tax because you can't find them at one specific location. The resources they produce and consume are nebulous and difficult to trace because they are produced in a disorderly fashion. Nation-states don't know how to measure the value of the goods they are produced or consumed in the wild, aka the unaccounted for parts of the world. Indigenous cultures inherently do not mix well with nation-states. Indigenous people operate closer in harmony with nature, whereas nation-states want to consume nature's disordered chaos and output ordered civilization. We have seen nation-states confine and restrict indigenous cultures into smaller and smaller areas of land as the desires of the nation-state begin to capture and order the world around the non-nation-state cultures. This has become a significant blemish upon the current social structure of the world and one of the greatest sources of stress and inequality across global society. If larger and more just human organizational structures are to ever emerge, they must be rid of cultural bias over the legitimacy of identities or objects under their domain. Seeing like a protocol. Crypto economic systems are capable of managing significant amounts of responsibility previously held by nation-states, while preserving the rights of the individual to maximally express their desires upon the world around them. Ethereum is a neo-nation, a nation in the clouds, with bottom-up, opt-in participation, rather than imposed top-down coercion. While the mechanisms for participation are different, we see similar functions of nation-states that are also facilitated by Ethereum. Ethereum also likes things ordered and serialized. In fact, if you want anything to exist on Ethereum, you must comply with the laws of the EVM. Want to establish a settlement on Ethereum? You'll need an Ethereum address. Want an identity on Ethereum? You'll need an ENS name. Want to deploy a token? You'll need a contract address for that. You want to buy an NFT? Well, your specific Ethereum address will need to interact with a specific contract address so Ethereum can know what part of the ledger to update. Ethereum is a protocol for serializing objects into the metaverse. You initialize the state of an NFT by deploying smart contract information to Ethereum. Ethereum doesn't need to employ land surveyors or have treasury departments. It doesn't need labor to understand the value of the resources inside its domain. Ethereum knows. So here is a screenshot of just a typical Ethereum address. It's got a balance of 1,076 Ether. It understands that value to be roughly $3.2 million. It also has 38 tokens, 38 objects that are housed, that are owned, operated by this one specific Ethereum address, and the value of those objects are roughly $1.7 million. Ethereum knows all of these things. Since Ethereum is an internet protocol, it won't ever come knocking in order to collect taxes. One of the significant improvements of Ethereum as an organizational system is the cost efficiencies in maintaining liveness about the ledger. By removing its own material desires of maximal tax extraction, Ethereum collects only the minimum amount of tax revenue, transaction fees, needed to maintain the system. Taxes are paid by those who actually incur public costs to the members of the Ethereum Neo Nation, those who secure and make state updates to the global ledger. Object permanence in the metaverse. Whatever the metaverse is, it will require object permanence. The items found in the metaverse must behave like the items in the real verse. Objects in the metaverse must collide with other objects in the metaverse. If they don't, are they even objects at all? Metaversal objects must be aware of each other's existence. In the digital world, this can only be achieved if all objects are known to a single source of truth, to all other known items in the metaverse. While nation states assign numbers to objects it discovers inside of its domain, individuals assign numbers to the objects that they create on Ethereum. The process of tokenization manifests the object into the metaverse and makes that object known to all the other objects in the same plane of existence. A universe is born. This is Ethereum's role as a neo-nation. Register all the objects and make them interact. In DeFi, we call these money Legos, but in NFTs, we call this the metaverse. Writing was invented when humans needed to make records of object ownership in the real world, and this invention began the process of recorded history. The metaverse will arrive via a similar process. First, we document the items that exist inside of it upon a universal ledger, and then we go and build a digital civilization around that single source of truth, which we call the metaverse. A universal ledger is the underlying skeleton of a metaverse. Identities are objects. Like all organizational systems that came before it, religion, nation states, Ethereum is composed of people. But so far, Ethereum has had difficulty in actually knowing who the individuals who compose it actually are. Our human souls and human identity are not something that can be serialized and added to the blockchain. That is something exclusively in the meat space layer of the world, and it always will be. Nation states don't care about the human spirit. They give you an 8-digit social security number and they move on. Your identity is bestowed upon you by nation states. Also, it expires every 6 years. So if you don't go to your nearest licensing department, there will be consequences. In the metaverse, you choose your own identity. Ethereum addresses are free for everyone and aren't individually capable of linking an address to a person. I've personally used over 50 Ethereum addresses over the course of my time in Ethereum, and many of those are shared with other humans. While my personal activity is largely confined to just a handful of addresses, all of the fungible ERC20 tokens that pass through these addresses do nothing to actually link a specific identity to that address. Currency and other fungible assets are designed to remove associations between the owner and the unit. Currency is supposed to be a faceless, apolitical public utility that holds no bias and accepts no information about the entities that use it. ERC20 tokens come and go fluidly out of wallets. Since they're fungible, once they are commingled with other tokens, they lose any sort of traceability. My Ethereum address holds a balance of ETH, UNI, AAVE, MKR, and any other ERC20 token, just like thousands of other Ethereum addresses. Non-differentiated, non-unique. Indeed, I can sell any tokens from one wallet and rebuy them from another wallet without any link between those two wallets. As privacy tools like Aztec come online, I could even send ERC20 tokens from address A to address B without associating those two addresses, making addresses useless for establishing identity. The inherent neutrality of ERC20 tokens is a fantastic property that is required to produce a fair and open global financial system, but falls short of what is required to host a digital nation in the cloud. And this is where the power of the non-fungible token comes in. And for the listeners, I have a human wearing a shirt that says non-fungible human, because we are non-fungible. I am me. You are you. My Ethereum address holds CryptoPunk 1118, of which there is only one. I cannot privately send CryptoPunk 1118 to another wallet. Since there is only one CryptoPunk 1118, the NFT functions as an on-chain object and establishes a chain of identity across all the Ethereum addresses it touches. Rather than the address itself, it's the object that the address holds that Ethereum is concerned with. ERC20s do nothing for associating an identity to an Ethereum address, but ERC721s do everything for it. As a real metaphysical being, people can traverse the metasphere and interact with the objects that they come across in their travels. NFTs are specific, and thus ownership over an NFT illustrates specific taste. Here is my NFT wallet on OpenSea. You can see all the NFTs that I've purchased. Penguins are cute. There are many wallets, but this one is mine. No other wallet hosts this specific collection of human-generated objects. NFTs begin to form a shadow of an identity behind the private keys that control them. The NFT profile pic avatar movement. It becomes trivially easy to understand the human behind an address when people add NFTs to their social media profile pictures. ENS names do the same trick. In fact, ENS is actually making great strides with adding an identity layer to the ENS name itself, above and beyond just a human readable name appended to an Ethereum address. I expect ENS to play a significant role in aligning human identity with Ethereum moving forward. ENS addresses are NFTs too, and they contribute their own unique layer of identity on Ethereum. Serializing humans on identity. Ethereum doesn't bestow your identity upon you the way a nation state assigns you a number at birth. You choose who you are on Ethereum. Ethereum doesn't know that you're a specific human, nor does it care. But when you purchase an NFT, especially one that you put as your Web2 avatar, you are selecting one specific NFT from the millions that exist to become a digital representation of your digital self. I've chosen CryptoPunk 1118 from contract address 0xb473, blah, 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 as a representation of my human taste and human spirit, as I've chosen to bestow the properties of CryptoPunk 1118 to a random Ethereum address. I've chosen my Ethereum address, and I've determined what is my identity. In turn, Ethereum becomes aware of this presence of a specific identity that exists, which is molding Ethereum by instantiating specific identity properties inside of one Ethereum address. With the association of specific objects in the Ethereum metaverse, that Ethereum address stands apart from the rest. It has come in contact with a specific set of unique NFTs, and these non-fungible interactions distinguish it from all other addresses that exist inside the metaverse. It has its own traceable path with its own unique story to tell. Only it has taken its path, and that has made all the difference. NFTs are how humans become an identifiable object to the state of Ethereum. Not the nation state of Ethereum, but the state of memory of the Ethereum virtual machine. Weird how they use the same words. A renaissance of identity. Ethereum identity flips the script on how we know it under the nation-state model. On Ethereum, we choose our identity. Rather than have our identity bestowed upon us in the form of an 8-digit number, Ethereum asks us, what defines you? In the Renaissance, a time marked by the rise of the individual out of the tyranny of oppressive top-down religion, we saw a transformation of art from 2D profile and primitive perspectives towards 3D representations and photorealistic styles. I believe the metaverse offers a similar paradigm shift upon the properties of identity. We are on the cusp of a 2D to 3D transformation of identity. In the physical world, our identity is largely tied to our physical form. So much, in fact, that nation states use skin color, eye color, hair color, sex, and height to register your properties to its central database so it can keep track of you. Check your identification. It's all on there. The physical properties of your human form simply aren't relevant to Ethereum. Ethereum has no way of knowing your skin color, nor does it care. There's nothing stopping some humans with some specific physical properties from selecting a digital representation that is entirely different from the DNA that they were bestowed by birth. The practice of mindfulness teaches individuals how to separate their mind from their body and to be more aware of their internal processes as independent from the processes of their physical body. Your human form is an overlay upon your human spirit. While these things interact, they are also distinct. Given the opportunity, your human spirit could, in theory, choose to embody a different vessel. Your face is just what you see in the mirror. You are you. And here's a quote from Suzu that says, "We bought punks and other NFTs because they are undeniably part of the broader story of digital scarcity, meme economy, collective capitalism, metaverse, and mind-body dissociation." Mind-body dissociation is interesting. Digital metaverse representation. I FOMO'd into my CryptoPunk after People Pleaser's Fortune magazine cover debuted. And let's blow it up. Here it is. So you can see a lot of different characters in there, right? A lot of different characters doing some different things. And let's read about those guys. The cover is full of references to crypto Twitter personalities. There's CryptoDog, LoomDart, Banteg, Tetranode, Santiago Santos, Kobe, and others. As a crypto Twitter personality, I was super bummed that I wasn't included in the cover. Every crypto person had an opportunity to be a part of crypto history, but it became immediately obvious that I was never going to be included in this piece of art. At the time, my Twitter or social media avatars was a picture of my human form. There were no humans in People Pleaser's images. There were only digital representations. That was the point. Criteria for inclusion in this historic piece of art required a digital, non-human representation of identity. People Pleaser's art was a slice of the metaverse, and the human form does not compute inside of this plane of reality. The rest of the metaverse. Identity is the first thing that arrives in the metaverse, but as soon as we establish ourselves, next comes our things. As soon as humans evolved from nomadic hunter-gatherers to agricultural settlers, we started collecting things. Similarly, as soon as we're capable of settling in the metaverse, it's time to collect things. Metaverse loot. Just this week in Ethereum, we have seen something brand new capture an insane amount of attention and energy. Loot for Adventurers was dropped on the 28th, where 8,000 bags were minted, each with 8 different items, each with their own scale of rarity. On OpenSea, the items look like this. A image which looks like just a list of things. It's just a list. And that's what the NFT was. Previously, NFTs have been about a specific JPEG. The NFT generative art or NFT profile picture movement has been centered around purchasing a specific JPEG that have come to be associated with Ethereum culture. The JPEG standard is just a specific cosmetic layer upon an object that doesn't actually hold any cosmetic information about itself. So when you buy a loot bag, this list up here, are you buying a JPEG that is a list of items? No. The JPEG on OpenSea is just an illustration of the token, not the token itself. These loot bag tokens have properties that create a set of objects and bestow these objects with unique properties. OpenSea hasn't updated to render the properties of these objects, but more specific websites like 0xinventory.com are capable of expressing the relevant properties of loot bags. So if you take a token, like you see up here, and you put it into this new website, the one that is more capable of expressing the properties of the token, you see more properties of the token. There are different rarities, and the items that are actually in this token are colored. That's because, like I said, the token isn't a JPEG. The JPEG just shows what the token is, and different parts of the internet can show what it is differently. The 0x Inventory app website is rendering a higher resolution version of the metaverse as it relates to the loot tokens. It uses the properties embedded inside the tokens to make cosmetic changes to its front end. These changes are primitive and simple. The text that identifies the object has changed color based on rarity. The changes that 0xinventory.app brings to the world are just surface layer changes that are simply illustrating the properties of the tokens themselves, whether they're rare, epic, legendary, or just common. But this is the first step that tokens must take in expressing their properties into the metaverse that's rendered around them. Today, your token changes the color of its own text on a website. Tomorrow, the metaverse manifests specific digital objects into your hands and changes options that are available to you. Loot forks. What did the Loot project unlock? Potentially nothing. It's brand new and no one knows. Anything that is 4 days old at the time of writing has an unmeasurable amount of risk to it. But ever since the genesis of Loot project, derivative projects have been spun up to attach or append value upon the loot corner of the metaverse. While this corner of the metaverse is completely unstable, this model for establishing how the metaverse grows has gained precedent. This new model has pushed expression to the surface, while value and utility are embedded deeper into the Ethereum protocol. A few people have noticed the potential behind this model. By embedding tokenized properties into a deeper layer of the technological stack, you optimize for maximal cosmetic choice, while establishing a single source of truth of object properties inside the metaverse. This helps reduce complexity and development costs for developers, while giving freedom and creativity and expression to users. So here are some forks that have been spun up. Ability scores. Someone has spun up ability scores contract and created stats that can be bestowed upon the bearer of these loot objects. They're basically RPG stats that are common throughout legacy games. After all, Ethereum is a money game landscape. So strength 9, dexterity 7, constitution 13, intelligence 12, wisdom 12, charisma 12. Characters, another spin-off. Contract was spun up to establish the first manifestation of a character that wears all of the loot that is held inside of a loot bag. There was no relationship between this and the original loot team. It was just spun up by like-minded participants who wanted to append additions to the loot ecosystem. Troll, priest, luck, faith, etc. Realms. Realms were able to be minted by loot bag holders, and there's some kind of generative map of an imagined universe that could theoretically surround the loot. It's not yet known how it will interact with the above objects. New section. A generative metaverse. The metaverse will be rendered at the periphery. Ethereum cannot dictate what the metaverse will look like. It can only host valuable objects that it holds. The metaverse cannot be determined by a single source of truth. That is fundamentally unscalable. Rather, the metaverse will be rendered locally based upon a local set of rules and properties. While the metaverse will be rendered locally, the valuable objects inside of that metaverse will be common and interoperable. Composing the metaverse. Whatever the metaverse is, it will compose itself as an emergent structure. There will not be a specific genesis moment or location, but rather the metaverse will slowly manifest all around us. The metaverse will be a composable universe whose objects are shared and interactive. In order to become more immersive, the metaverse will have to manifest cosmetically. The computation to produce a cosmetic layer upon the metaverse will not come from a blockchain that's technologically unfeasible. It's much more realistic that the metaverse will be rendered by parameters that are determined by the local rules of that relevant metaverse. The Fortnite metaverse will be manifested by the Fortnite rules, and the Axie metaverse will be rendered by Axie's rules, and Decentraland's metaverse will be rendered by Decentraland's. But what makes all of these separate parts part of the metaverse is the shared registry of metaversal objects. Just like the SMS and TCP protocols, the metaverse will be built upon a protocol for identifying objects. If it matters in the real world, it can be represented by a serialized object in the metaverse. The metaverse may begin with many distinct and incompatible silos. These separate silos will only acknowledge certain specified objects that are relevant to that corner of the metaverse, and the only connections to the rest of the metaverse will be via deep connective structures like Uniswap or OpenSea. Many items will only be relevant to a specific locale of the metaverse, but they will be connected by underlying liquidity layers of Ether, Uniswap, and OpenSea. Just as DeFi slowly migrated from separate applications into a single universal financial structure, the metaverse will stitch itself together via similar money Lego mechanisms. The metaverse will grow by appending larger and more seamless components of a metaverse universe upon a central foundation of assets and object identification. It will slowly manifest into one composed alternative dimension of digital existence. Specifics on how the metaverse actually manifests will be determined by the unique rules of that particular corner or niche. Yet one thing is certain. The metaverse requires a central asset registry, a layer of financial applications, and an economic engine. This is what Ethereum is. Ethereum is a registry of tokens, a composition of DeFi applications, and a native money and economic system. Composed together, these are the underlying foundations of an economic system for the metaverse. Ethereal desires. We began this article illustrating the desires of a nation state and alluded to how its physical nature establishes material desires upon the land over which it controls. Crypto economic systems like Ethereum are a step function improvement between the relationship between the individual and the social organizational structure that Ethereum offers. Rather than devolve humanity into a yield farm that it harvests, Ethereum is a public goods system that optimizes for minimal value extraction. Rather than telling it how it is, the people of Ethereum tell Ethereum what it is. Rather than optimizing for rent seeking, Ethereum charges based on the size of the object in data terms and the complexity of its interactions with the objects around it. State level taxes. All economic systems we have seen in history have had some sort of tax collection system. All systems need to maintain self-protection, and the stronger the economy can finance its own protection, the better the civilization does. I wrote about this in Ultrasound Money. EIP 1559 collects taxes proportional to one's use of Ethereum. The more data you put on-chain, the more you pay. Rather than taxing wealth or income, Ethereum taxes you based on your consumption of a public good, which is block space. As the metaverse expands, more and more objects will arrive inside of Ethereum's block space, and some portion of these objects will have continued on-chain interactions with other objects, which will require state updates on Ethereum in order to update the state of the surrounding metaverse. The vast majority of objects interactions in the metaverse will either be executed via rollups in hostile environments, or like the Wildy for the RuneScape fans, or on a trusted database inside of friendly environments. But even as layer 1 transactions become cheaper and more efficient, this will largely be offset by a Cambrian explosion of metaversal objects and object-to-object interactions. The metaverse will be no friend to cheap gas prices, which, thanks to Ethereum monetary policy, generates a flywheel of security around the ecosystem. As the metaverse grows larger, Ethereum becomes more secure, making the metaverse itself more secure with it. ETH is metaverse money. The meme "art is priced in ETH" was created during the winter 2020 NFT boom, as everyone noticed that NFTs were valued on ETH terms. Crypto art is just the beginning, of course. Naturally, the metaverse will start with the highest valued speculative art pieces before it matures into a more functional, intertwined ecosystem. While the metaverse is in its early phases, it will be siloed and separated. The only unifying thing about the metaverse will be the underlying financialization layer, aka DeFi, that establishes a common economic base between all the subzones of the metaverse. The first commonly shared aspect of the metaverse will be ETH. ETH is a common money that unites all separated silos of the metaverse upon a single liquid asset. While objects inside of Axie Infinity cannot yet interact with objects inside of Gods Unchained, they can both be bought or sold for ETH, allowing value from Axie Infinity to be passed towards Gods Unchained or any other part of the metaverse. Money will be the first thing that ties the metaverse together, and ETH is that money. Conclusion. This image was recently shared with me on Twitter. On the surface, it illustrates an overhyped nature of the use of the word metaverse and how it is so non-descriptive that it doesn't actually illustrate anything. It's simply a hyped word that everyone wants to align with. And the image is a graph titled Technology Terms Used in Startup Descriptions and Tech Articles. 2020, multiplayer game, virtual reality experience, augmented reality filter, 5G connection, AR cloud, digital avatar, digital events, e-commerce, blockchain, internet, social media. But in 2021, it's metaverse, metaverse, metaverse. Everything is described as a metaverse. I said, here's my take on this. I think this is a meme on the surface, but it's actually much more profound than what lets on. All technology is progressing towards a unified body. The metaverse will build itself, and it beckons towards those closest to helping it achieve this. A metaverse is an object that calls towards its surroundings. It wants to be built. It just needs the humans to do the building for it. Like the protocol sync, the metaverse is an object that attracts. It rewards those who contribute to it, and the more scalable structures find themselves embedded deeper within this holistic structure. The NFT mania has begun with JPEGs, but there are so many more file formats we must get through before the metaverse is established. When it comes to how this will all unfold, your guess is as good as mine. I can only leave you with the same lessons that we have learned over and over again throughout crypto. Fair launches work, leaders matter, and we're going to ape into something until we figure it out. I'm looking forward to exploring the metaverse with you all. It seems we've just recently discovered massive, untouched new fields, so let's build something cool. Thank you, everyone, for taking the time out of your day to listen to this, and let me know your thoughts as to this concept of the metaverse. Has this resonated with you? Do you agree with these takes? How else do you see parts of the metaverse unfolding? I want to know those things, so hit me up on Twitter @TrustlessState or leave me comments in the YouTube. Also like and subscribe to the YouTube. Please, thank you. Goodbye. Hey, we hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, head over to Bankless HQ right now to develop your crypto investing skills and learn how to free yourself from banks and gain your financial independence. We recommend joining our daily newsletter, podcast, and community as a Bankless Premium subscriber to get the most out of your Bankless experience. You'll get access to our market analysis, our alpha leaks, and exclusive content, and even the Bankless token for airdrops, raffles, and unlocks. If you're interested in crypto, the Bankless community is where you want to be. Click the link in the description to become a Bankless Premium subscriber today. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the channel for in-depth interviews with industry leaders, Ask Me Anythings, and weekly roll-ups where we summarize the week in crypto and other fantastic content. Thanks everyone for watching and being on the journey as we build out the Bankless Nation.